Welcome to Sacred Heart Strings Online. Today we are going to get started learning our piece for concert. We're going to have two pieces. This is the first piece for concert, and it is by a very famous classical composer named Beethoven. The piece is in your book on page 21. It's number 51, and the name is Ode to Joy. Ode an die Freude, if you were to speak it in German, which the words for this were written in German. We're not, of course, going to be singing. We're just going to be playing our instruments. But we're going to get started, and this time through, I'm going to play very slowly. Now, this is a brand new piece for us, so we call that sight reading when we're reading a piece for the first time. We're going to take a look at the key signature. And if we look at the key signature, there aren't any sharps or flats written in the key signature, but it is going to be written or played with an F sharp all the way through. So as though it were in the key of D, but we're going to be playing with that F sharp. These are all notes you've played before. We're just reading them from the staff for the first time. And the time signature 4/4 means that there is one count. The quarter note gets one count, that's the 4 at the bottom, and then the 4 at the top means that there are 4 counts in each measure. Two other things that we want to think about when we play this piece. The lines that you see underneath the notes indicate that you're going to continue to hold that finger down. That's really the way we've been doing it in the past. But this is just a little reminder that once you use that second finger, you're going to keep holding the second finger down when you depress the third finger. And then in this case, when we move over to the A string, you're going to do your best to keep your fingers curved around so that you can actually hold your second and third fingers down when you move over to the A string. Now, if you find that you're bumping into the A string and it's not a pure sound when you get to it, you could lift your fingers ever so slightly, but don't move them around because you'll need them in exactly the same place to go back down the scale again when you go back to the D string. So let's get started. We're going to play very, very slowly. And in the middle, you'll notice that there is going to be a circle with your bow. When you see the little comma up in the air, that's a breath mark. That means we take a little breath, we make a little space. We don't officially have a rest, but we have a little space, and it's enough space that we can make a circle with our bows and start fresh with a down bow, and that's very clearly marked. So we're going to start at the beginning of number 51 on page 21, and those tiny little notes in parentheses at the beginning are helping us to get warmed up with the right notes. So we're going to play those first to make sure we can find our F sharp. We're going to start out first with the D, the E, and the F sharp so that we know that we are in the right spot. You could double check by putting down your G and play it with your open G as a double stop to make sure that they're in tune, that octave is clear. But lift up the third finger now, back to the F sharp, and we're going to start at the beginning, Ode to Joy, very slowly on the F sharp. That's on your D string. 1, 2, ready, go. And circle. And you can even finish with the circle at the end. That's really kind of pretty to finish that way. Now, you might find some parts are trickier than others, and so if you find a tricky part, what do you need to do? Just stop and practice that tricky part. Don't keep starting at the beginning every time. If you know that there's a tricky part, maybe right after we make that circle in the middle of the piece, that would be the fifth measure. Maybe you find it a little tricky to get started there again, so practice starting right there on that measure. And get the hang of that. Then maybe start the measure before and include that measure. So give this a try. Get started with number 51, Ode to Joy, and we'll try this again in a few days, just a little bit faster. Thanks for joining us.